Welcome into the Full Force Fathers podcast, guys. Alongside my co-host Dave, I'm Brett, and we are on episode 9, Dave, believe it or not. So we've gone over the 2-month mark.
And it's been such a success, you decided to come back to Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the podcast has been such a hit. I felt the need to get on a plane and fly out so we could do a podcast in the same room. So, no, for real, I am in Tucson. If you're watching us on YouTube, you see us sitting next to each other here in our makeshift studio in Dave's living room. I had to come out for a 72-hour trip for work. So I said, hey, what the hell? Let's do the podcast in the same room. So here we are. So if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening to us, I don't know if it's going to sound better with us being in the same room. Maybe there'll be a little bit less disconnect when he's talking, I'm talking. Maybe there'll be hopefully a better flow to it. But if you're watching on YouTube, we are sitting here in the same room doing this episode. So Dave, what's going on, my man?
Dude, it's been great to have you out here. It's kind of been like old times.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. We've been hitting the road in the morning.
Yep.
Getting some workouts in and just kind of enjoying the time we got here.
I've been doing what I do, beating Dave's ass, getting him in shape.
He did tell me when he was coming out here he was going to make me puke. Although you didn't end up making that happen.
I didn't make him puke, but I got him out. You know, he's done a minimum of 4 or 5 miles each morning that I've been here, and some weight vest rucks. If you're watching on YouTube, I have my Down to Ruck shirt on. So, but anyway, so today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about temptation, and we're going to talk about why. Like, you know, that's a big, broad topic that you'll hear on a lot of podcasts. Hopefully, we'll put a different and our own original spin on why. And we're going to segue that in with our book recommendation as well. But I want to start off with a Bible verse. And that Bible verse comes from Matthew chapter 4, verse 1. And it says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil." As always, Dave, initial reaction.
I think temptation is the thing that holds everybody back. I think that's the biggest thing with temptation. I don't think temptation does anything good for you.
Yeah, no, temptation is it's a big word. And it involves, in here on Full Force Fathers, we like to get into our faith, fitness, and finances, and it's a word that can relate to all three major topics. And I do want to just take an extra minute here. Usually I read the verse, which I read, but I do want to get into chapter 4 a little bit because there are some meaningful thoughts that come from the Bible in chapter 4, not just verse 1, but verse 2, 3, and 4. So it says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, 'If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread.' And Jesus answered, 'It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God.'" All right, that's where I want to start. Talks about food. So from a health and wellness perspective, temptation with food is probably the number one most important, I guess, subject or topic when it comes to temptation, because we all have the power and the control to curb those temptations to eat healthy, right? We are consumed with so much bad food around us, so much marketing on television every day, fast food joints. I mean, there's so many restaurants now than there was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, even 10 years ago. There's more restaurants. There's just more temptation to drive by a fast food restaurant. If it smells good, right? You pull in there and boom, you waste $10 on a burger and fries or whatever the hell you waste it on. But from a health and wellness point, that's really where it comes into play for me. With temptation, it comes into food choices, right? Food choices, the food choices that you make. You know, stop giving into the temptation of the sugary, crappy food and that temporary feeling that it gives you when you eat it. Because yes, it smells great, it tastes great. All of a sudden, that temporary feeling of that fast food or that junk, that sugar, it goes away in about 5 minutes. You're full, you feel like shit, and all of a sudden you're like I said, I've said multiple times, the first thing is, why the heck did I do that? You know what I mean? And from a health and wellness standpoint, that's why I always stress, it ties into finances. Make your lunch at home. Prep your meals at home. All right? It's going to keep you away from the temptation of the fast food, of the purchasing lunch every day, which, Dave, can alter your budget big time, right?
That's what people spend the most money on every month. And I think that's when they make their first budget. What they find is that they spend so much money on going out to eat because it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for people to just do that. It's easy for them to stop on their way home from work and just pick up fast food for the kids. It's easy after soccer practice or whatever practice you're going to do that instead of making a plan at the beginning of the week, buying healthy foods, coming home and actually making those foods. And yeah, the inflation's a real thing, right? So people are spending a lot more at the grocery store But in turn, they're spending a lot more on those fast food things too. I mean, I don't think there's anything on the actual dollar menu anymore. I think those things, it's like the $2 and $3 menu now.
Oh, absolutely.
So, it's all related, and it's not just that you're spending more at the grocery store. Those fast food chains, those restaurants, they're paying more for food too. And it's all relative. It's all going up at the same token.
It's a chain reaction of negativity all the way around, whether it's from the financial standpoint or from your health standpoint, right? We've talked about it in other episodes. You can't go to a fast food restaurant and feed your family for under $40, I bet. I mean, if you want to have a meal that's going to feed your family, you probably in today's day and age can't go and spend less than $40, I would imagine.
Listen, we talked about it the other night, right? We had your first night here that we have made a dinner.
Yeah.
We got steaks at the grocery store. We got some baked potatoes, some vegetables. All in, the dinner was $29. We fed 5 of us.
Yep.
And we had some leftovers, right? If we'd gone out to a restaurant for that, it would have been a couple $100.
It would have been $29 a person is probably what it would have been.
Yeah. So it's
and you're just more prone to make bad choices when you do eat out. The menu, everything looks enticing, whether it's fast food or it's an actual restaurant, right? Yeah, you can go to the restaurant and you can say you're going to grab something healthy, you're going to get a salad, you're going to get a whatever. Most likely, you're going to steer away from that. You'll be tempted, right, by the dessert menu. You'll be tempted by the meal that's just, it sounds better, right? Salad, a chicken Caesar salad sounds boring, right? You can get a chicken Caesar salad anywhere. You'll be tempted by the pasta with all the cream sauce and all the other nonsense that comes with it versus if you stick to the budget, you stick to what you're doing at home, you don't get that. You take the temptation out of there, right? You take the temptation of the bad food away from it.
Because what happens, I know this happens to me in the past, and I'm sure it happens to a lot of listeners and viewers that we have, is that you do that, you go, you have something crappy there, you stop and get some fast food, then you're like, well, today was a waste, so now later I'm just going to eat more junk.
Yep.
And I'm just going to eat, and it's going to keep compounding and spiraling out of control. And it's like, no, instead of just having that one thing, the temptation builds and you feel it, you're like, oh, well, I already wasted the day. What's an ice cream later?
Right, and it segues into the temptation in all the other areas, because if you start off your day with fast food, with the drive-through, you're probably going to skip a workout that day. You're going to give into the temptation of, well, I already ate bad today. I already, what the hell? Why? Might as well miss a workout. Or another one that I talk about is the temptation in your exercise choices. Some people, if they don't work out in the morning, they chalk up the day as a loss, when you have to fight that temptation to know, hey, listen, the workout didn't happen this morning, but that doesn't mean I have to just give into a day a loss or whatever. You got to find out, you got to make time later. You got to make time later in the day to get it in, late at night, whatever the case may be. You got to figure it out. I mean, just me yesterday, I've been busy with meetings for the last 2 days. I didn't get my standard in right away. Last night, I was doing bicep curls at, I don't even know, 10:30 last night, just trying to get them in before I went to sleep, because it's just the standard that I set, and I wasn't going to give into the temptation of, hey, I've only been doing this for 130 days. What the hell? Let me take a day off. The temptation was pulling me to just say, hey, you've done it for 130 days. What if you miss one day? You have to be able to fight that temptation to not do it. And the other one that I talk about too, Dave, is sleep. Sleep is so important, right? Every human runs on different sleep. I can function very well on 6 hours of sleep every night. Some people can't. Some need 8. Some need 9. Some need 4. Some people sleep with less than I do. But the temptation lies in the sleep is, for me, is when you get up at 4:30 every day or 5 or whatever the time may be, you're tempted to stay in bed because it's warm and it's comfortable. Because if you get up when the alarm goes off, you're going to be doing something uncomfortable. You're going to be going for a run when it's 40 degrees outside or raining. You're going to be in the gym, or you give into that temptation where a lot of people do that. A lot of guys and gals will give into the temptation of hitting the snooze button. And then they say, well, I already hit the snooze button twice. Oh, well, I'm just going to give in to not getting out of bed because
I missed my time.
I missed my time. I got to go to work. I got to just, get up and go to work. So the temptation lies in all of those choices, not just food, not just sleep, exercise choices.
And you always feel better after if you don't give in to the temptation.
Oh, so much better.
If you don't wake up on time and you skip your workout, you spend the whole day thinking about, man, I really should have had my workout this morning. You don't have the same energy. You don't have the same passion.
Absolutely.
You feel worse about your day starts to spiral, right? The same thing goes with food. Yeah. You have that, you're feeling down, you're stressed, you stop, you get some fast food, or you eat cookies from the pantry or whatever it may be. In the moment, it feels great. Afterwards, you're like, I literally cannot believe I just did that. I wrecked my day. I was on such a great trajectory, and now it all goes down. So temptation is never great on the other side of it. It's always it's the devil. It's the devil sitting.
The temptation is the devil. And when it comes to food, I mean, one thing that I do, it's a little tip that you could do when you're about to eat something crappy. Stop for just a second. When you see the cupcake or when you see the candy bar, or when you think about the fast food, stop before you do it and think, hey, think about the benefit. And it's a hard thing to do. Think about the benefit of not eating the cupcake, of not eating the sugar, of not having the soda and replacing it with a glass of water. If you can flip your mind and think of all the benefits of not having that, maybe that's one way you give into temptation less. Because listen, we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of having a cupcake. I had a cupcake here last night. But if you constantly are tempted to do it and you constantly give into it, you have to find ways to not give in to the temptation. You have to find ways and little things that work for you.
And for me, it's not putting those things in front of me. Right? It's not allowing myself to do those things. It's not buying cookies at the store and having them in the pantry. It's not, having my going out to eat money with me all the time so that if I'm driving down the street, I can stop in and grab something when I'm feeling down, it's keeping those things away from me. At least for me, that's what I've found is the way that I can control it.
Yeah. So for Dave, it's he has to fight the temptation the hardest at the grocery store. That's the hardest part for him because if he buys it, he knows he's going to eat it.
If I get a bag of Oreos, there's no chance that they survive.
They're not going to, his temptation, that's kind of his breaking point, right? If it's in the house, he's going to have it. So he has to make that choice and draw the line at the grocery store, And for everybody, everyone's different. Well, maybe your temptation is you can't fight the temptation at the grocery store. So send your wife to the grocery store if your trouble is at the grocery store because, the kids want to put all this stuff in the cart and you just don't want to deal with an argument with the kids that day. But it ties into being a full force father because we have to teach our kids about temptation. We have to teach them about healthy food choices. We have to teach them about healthy money choices. We have to teach them about healthy sleep and exercise patterns, right? That's the whole point of living a full force life is to teach them, right? We're fathers here. We're here for each other to support each other. So that's why it's so important that we continue, and I love it. This week alone, we've had more shares on Instagram and, some dads reaching out, asking about guests. So eventually down the line, once we continue to do what we're doing, we will have other fathers because we want perspective, right? Perspective, you're getting Dave and I's thoughts, but there's thousands and thousands and millions of followers out there that have different thoughts, different ideas, different tips. So it's another segment of the show that we're slowly building to because I've now had 4 or 5 dads out there that I'm friends with that say, hey, when can I come on as a guest? And that makes me feel good because that means maybe we are reaching some people. People are listening to the show. People are, we're getting the feedback, whether it's email or Dave's getting texts. And I'm getting a lot of messages on Instagram lately. And we're getting shares on the show on Instagram stories and saying, hey, take a listen to Brett and Dave on this. So keep giving us that feedback so it gives us the opportunity moving down the road. Hey, we'll bring in another guest to talk about temptation. We'll bring another guest in to talk about food and all those things and just help expand our network that we're doing right now. So, but in the whole temptation, temptation is the devil. You have to learn to curb it. You have to learn to fight it. But at the end of the day, it's you. It's you that has to do it.
Yeah. You have to make the choice.
And financial choices from temptation. You got anything else on financial choices?
Oh my God. Temptation, I think, is really powerful in the financial world in the sense that people, the way I would, binge eat when they're stressed and those temptations there, the temptations are there for people to shop. I think that's the big one. People online shopping, it used to be you go into the store and you have a spending spree, right? You go to the mall for the day, but I mean, how many malls are there still in America today?
Yeah.
There's few. So now it's on social media. We're having conversations with people. Our phones are listening to us. Believe it or not, they are.
Yep.
Right. You've got all these things that you search for. You search for stuff on Google. It's all going into an algorithm. And then you go to Instagram, and the things you were talking about with your friends or you were looking at on Google are now popping up on Instagram. They're popping up on Facebook. They're popping up everywhere you look.
Yep.
I mean, I remember we would be on vacation. We were driving my dad's Jeep when we were back east a couple of years ago. We were driving his Jeep, and we were just talking about the Jeep. And, while we were on our trip to Maine, we get up to Maine. I'm scrolling through my Instagram. Now I got things for Jeep, advertisement for Jeep parts.
Yep.
I mean, It's crazy, right? But those temptations are there. They're in front of you all the time, and it makes it so easy to buy something. Hey, look at these sneakers right here. Buy me, buy me, buy me. And you see it 100 times through your scroll. What are you going to do? You're eventually probably going to buy something. They don't do that because people don't buy it. They buy it because people actually buy the shit.
Yeah, they do it exactly that. It's they know that you're tempted by the buy now button because it's so easy and it's so convenient.
Yep.
And your phone,
you got Apple Pay on your phone.
Yeah.
You don't even have to take out your card.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah,
everything.
They make it so tempting and so convenient to purchase things that at the end of the day you really don't need. You know, you don't need. And from a financial standpoint, when I look at temptation, it's exactly that. You're tempted to break the budget because you want the Oreos at the store. Well, guess what? You got to fight it. It's not part of the budget. You're tempted, like you said, when your phone's listening to every word you say and you're scrolling, swiping up, swiping up, swiping up, swiping up, you're going to eventually, like you said, they do it for a reason. Because they know you're going to eventually break. You're going to give into the temptation of the pair of shoes that you were thinking about, and they know you want those shoes, so they're going to show it to you 1,500 times a day through all those sites. So they, like I said, the power of temptation, it is the devil. It is the form of the devil today, right?
The devil is around us all the time.
It's the devil. It's the form of the devil in so many different ways. It's the technology devil. You could call it a technology devil. It knows what you want, and you have to fight it.
These things are heavily marketed for a reason.
Yep.
Credit cards are the most marketed thing in the history of our country.
Yep.
For a reason.
Yep, you're absolutely
because the credit card companies are making money.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's people that go out there, they buy things on their credit card, and they pay it off every month. And that's incredible. Good for you. That's not the majority of the people. The majority of the people carry over $10,000 in debt on credit cards.
Yeah.
That's the fact of the matter.
They
don't market this stuff because they don't make money. They market it because they make a ton of money.
Yep.
And it's the same with fast food. It's the same with cars. It's the same with, any, candy, things like that. You know what you don't see marketed? You don't see broccoli, tomatoes, fresh vegetables. You don't see that stuff marketed.
Health.
Yeah. You just don't see it. I mean, the amount of gym ads you see on TV compared to fast food ads, I mean, it's incredible. And because people give into the temptation, and that's what you have to fight every single day. It really is an everyday fight. It's not something that you say, all right, I'm not going to give in to temptation. I don't do it anymore. Every day you're confronted with those things. When you're driving down the street, when you're watching TV, when you're listening to the radio, when you're scrolling Instagram, when you're talking to your kids, it's literally nonstop.
Yeah, and you brought up a point there, the temptation of the credit card, right? I probably would come to Tucson a lot more if I had a credit card with miles. Because guess what?
You get free trips.
The temptation of, what does it say on the stupid envelope? Earn 10,000 free miles. But what you really don't know is those 10,000 free miles equate to $10, and you're never going to get the free trip that you think you're going to get anyways. But I would be more tempted to come to Tucson more often if I had a credit card with miles because it would just be right there in front of me. Go back. You know what? Your fourth trip isn't going to cost anything. But guess what? That temptation of that credit card would make me come out here more, would make me spend more, and it would tempt me to do less work while I was here. I've been telling you, I'm here for 72 hours. 20 of those hours I'm going to sleep. I got 52 hours to get my shit done. That's work meetings, see a handful of friends that I wanted to make sure I saw in town within a 1 to 2 mile radius of where I was staying. I didn't go anywhere outside of town, and that gave me 52 hours to pack my schedule, right? I couldn't be tempted by the outside stuff. I attempted to make a couple of contacts. I didn't make it. I couldn't be tempted to waste time to do it. I had to get my schedule set. I had to get my ducks in a row, and I had to get in and out, you know what I mean, out of Tucson in time to get back home to get to my kids. And if I was tempted, I could have made the trip a week. I could have spent an extra $400 on lunches and dinners. We could have
gone out for that steak.
We could have did anything. The temptation is everywhere, but by having the schedule and not giving into the temptation, I'm here. And it was a very efficient, I would say, pretty damn efficient, Dave, since I've been here.
Oh, yeah. You've kicked ass, taken names, and now you get to go back to Virginia and reap those benefits.
Yeah.
That's great. But I'm going to spin you back because credit cards always get me down a rabbit hole, and you can, you think whatever you want about that. But I did a story a couple weeks ago about getting these flyers in the mail, right?
Yeah.
And the temptation of what it is. I get them every single week. I don't have any debt anymore. There's nothing to my name, so I am undeterminable on my credit score. So I get these all now. They keep coming in every week, one after the other. So I got one, Delta Sky Miles last week, right? It was 60,000 bonus miles you can get. Wow. It's amazing, 60,000 bonus miles. So I opened it up. I'm like, this is so cool, right? 60,000 bonus miles. I mean, I can fly maybe to Texas. So I opened it up and I looked to see what the fine print was. There was interest rates on your purchases were anywhere from 15 to 25%. Okay, great, cool. There's a $99 fee a year for that card, and guess how much you had to spend to get those 60,000 miles?
Probably $2,500.
It was $2,000.
Yeah.
Now it used to be all you needed to do was buy a pack of gum and it would activate your miles, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Now you got to buy $2,000 worth of stuff. The majority of America doesn't have $1,000 in their emergency fund to cover a small emergency.
Mm-hmm.
How is someone going to go out and spend $2,000 on a credit card and pay it off?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Because it's going to sit there.
It's going to sit
and now
there.
you're going to pay 15 to 25%.
Or 20. Or not, yeah.
And then it's temptation. You see it. You got an airplane on the front. You've got miles, 60,000 miles. It sounds like so much. That temptation is just always there.
Until you read the fine print, and it's qualifying purchases.
Yes.
It's no longer swipe the card once and you get the house. It's what is a qualifying purchase?
I'm going to go buy this pack of gum.
Good
to go.
And it brings up another point, because temptation is a long topic we can talk about. And we've been talking about temptation from one standpoint, temptation from a health standpoint, and all the things. Another temptation that you have to fight is from a personal standpoint. And what I mean by that, Dave, is think about what let's say you have a bad day at work, or your wife and you get in an argument or something. You're tempted to say something that could be catastrophic. You need to fight the temptation to say the wrong thing, because you don't want to burn a bridge. Because remember, if you say the wrong thing, if you give into that temptation of having a curse fit at your wife or at your boss, you know what? Giving into the temptation of the moment, you could be out of a job. Giving into the temptation of the moment, you could burn a relationship, your wife, a best friend, a parent, that if you had just bit your damn tongue, because the devil wants you to say it. The devil wants you to say the absolute worst thing. You have to fight it. Fight it. That's just a little nuance to temptation that if you don't think about it, it just blows right by you. You know what I mean? You got to be able to give the temptation to have the self-control of your personal relationships as well. It's all around you with the money and the health. But from a personal standpoint, there's so much temptation there every single day to just walk into your office and tell your boss to fuck off and move along. You know what I mean? Without knowing the consequences of saying, hey, guess what? Your salary's now gone because you're fired, because you couldn't bite your tongue. You couldn't, that devil got to you. And the temptation is instead of having a grown man conversation with your spouse or with your boss or with your dad or your mom or your brother or your sister, or your friends. So it's all around you guys. Temptation is all around you. You have to learn to curb it, to fight it. We all give into it, but to be able to control it. Don't let it control you. Don't let the devil control you. You need to control it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And temptation is everywhere. It's not just in finance and food and health, and there's drugs, there's alcohol, there's sex. There's just it's around us all the time.
Yeah, that's another rabbit hole. We could do a whole other topic on of drugs, alcohol, and sex. The temptation of those things that are just about as prevalent in advertising as credit cards, as prescription drugs, right?
The shows you watch on TV.
Temptation to just go to the doctor and get a prescription because you think there's something wrong with you versus going outside for a walk and clearing your head. Temptation is everywhere, guys. And I think this is a great topic that we can bring a guest on to talk about. This one we hope we get a lot of feedback on, because there's probably so many parts of temptation that we're not even talking about.
Oh, for sure.
That we're not even thinking.
People battle every day.
That we're not thinking about. That's not in our show notes, that people are battling every day. You know what I mean? And why do you give into temptation? You feel bad about yourself, or is it just the easiest thing to do? Why? That's another big word. Temptation leads into why, which is going to segue into our second part of our show, which involves our book recommendation, which you can see on the coffee table here, which is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Great author, great writer.
Incredible book.
A lot of great books he's written. This is a great book. I started 75 Hard the first time last year, and that's the first book I read. Dave said, here, you're doing 75 Hard, read this book. And Dave had already read it, and it really changed your perspective, but it brings up the question as to why. Why do you want to be a full-force father? Why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to be healthy? Why do you want to be rich and successful? Or why do you want to just be happy with where you are? This book, Start With Why, it really is if I could recommend a book to read, if you feel lost, if you don't know where to begin.
If you're starting a business.
If you're starting a business.
I mean, it covers so many different areas of life.
Yep.
Starting your why, finding your why, your purpose. That's the motivation that gets you through the tough times, gets you past the temptation, allows you to stay true to who you want to be and follow your goals and stick to them. It's just such an incredible read.
And on the front, it says, start with why, how great leaders inspire everyone to take action. And that is a great line on the book, because as fathers, we're leaders. We're leaders of the family. We have to lead our kids. We have to lead by example, right? We have to be leaders. But if we don't know why we're leading, it's all for nothing. If we don't know why we want to be a great dad, if we don't know why we want to be in shape, why do you want to lose 30 pounds? Because you want to be healthy. You want to be there for your kids. It could be as simple as why you want to lose weight, or why do you want to get out of debt, Dave? Why would you want to get out of debt?
Because I don't want to be a slave to the lender for the rest of my life. I want to be able to retire at an age where I can still do things. I lost my mom at a young age. She didn't make it to retirement. She didn't get to do the things she wanted to do with her retirement.
Yeah.
When I get there, I want to be able to enjoy those things. I don't want to work to that point in life where I might not be alive anymore.
Yeah.
The stress from work alone over the course of time, what it can do to you. No, bullshit. I don't want that. I want to be able to take my family on vacation. I want to be able to pay for my kids' school. I want to be able to pay for Kendall's wedding. Like, those types of things are more important to me than living in the moment and buying whatever crap is out there, always having the newest iPhone or a new car on a lease or, a bigger and better house. I don't need it.
Yeah.
I need those things I talked about first.
Yeah. Two things about why. Like, when I came out to Tucson, I booked my flight, my father said to me, why are you going to Tucson? If you know why you're going, then it makes sense. Well, I had to think for a second. Well, I'm going out there for meetings to grow my business, to work on Full Force Fathers in person with Dave. There was a lot of whys. So then at the end of the day, I said, well, yes, I know my why. I know why I'm going to Tucson, to build new business relationships, to support my family, to do all those things for my family that I want to do. So I knew my why. So it made sense to come out here, right? The other thing that I want to mention about why is I actually said the word why to you in our conversation on our run this morning. There's a neighbor up the road we saw this morning, and they're retired, semi-retired, and I said to Dave, I said, isn't he retired? Why does he go to work? And we thought about it for a second. We both were like, yeah, when I'm retired, I want to be retired because I want to be retired. I don't want to have to go to work. Right. So why do you go to work? I mean, maybe financial choices forced him to still have to work at 60.
Or maybe it's just he loves interacting with people and being around it.
Or his why is he does it because he wants to keep active and he wants to stay healthy. Everyone's why is different.
Right.
But then, there's two big points of why. Like, why do I stay in shape? That's the number one question I ask myself every day, because there's days where I just say, listen, I'm good, I'm healthy, I'm fit. I do it because my why for staying healthy is to set the example for my kids. There's nothing that brings me more joy than when my kids want to work out, when my kids want to exercise, when my kids want to make dinner. That's my why. That's why I stay healthy, because I want to be there when I'm 65, 70. I want to be there for the weddings of my 3 girls. I want to be there for them. I want to be there. My why for working so hard is when I retire, I want to be able to be with my grandkids, hopefully one day, as much as I want without having to worry. So read Start With Why, because it gives you so much perspective. Why do you want to start a business? Why is your passion so, why are you so passionate about stuff? And how, it gives you a step to start on with this book, So read Start With Why, read all the books that we recommend every week. We recommend one every single week, and I think that's, this is our 6th week, I think, of a book recommendation. So, and we'll never recommend a book that we don't like. I know, and like I said, the criteria for that is we both have had to have read the book. Whether even if it's at separate times, he read it a year before I did, we both have to have read it, and we both have reasons why, no pun intended, why we want you to read the book.
And I think an important takeaway here is after you're done listening to this episode, if this brought you some clarity, sit down by yourself, sit down with your spouse, and write down why you want to make these changes in your life, why you want to live full force, why you want to be successful, healthy, wealthy. Put it on paper so that you can see it every single day. because it's important to know that. If you don't know, if you lose your why, you lose your path.
Yep. And my coach, my personal coach, which for fathers out there, I think it's huge, a professional, personal coach, a business coach, a whatever coach. I have a coach that I meet with every other week. And last week in our coaching session, he said to me, get yourself a notepad, leave it next to your bed, and before you go to bed, why do you do what you do? Write it at the top of the paper and just throw up the ideas every night before you go to sleep, right? And we never spoke about this book, but he's my coach, my personal coach, my business coach. He says, have a notepad of why you do what you do. And you'll find it to be you'll be so much more successful in whatever it is that you choose to do if you know why you're doing it, versus if you're just doing it for a paycheck or you're doing it because becoming a dad was what you thought you were supposed to do, right? So, check us out. Keep listening. We appreciate you guys on the show. But temptation and why were our two main topics that we focused on today. I think we hit them pretty well, Dave. And where can they find us?
At Full Force Fathers, Instagram, all major podcasting platforms. We're there. Follow us, like us, share us. If you like the content, share it so we can get it out to as many fathers as we can. That's our goal here, to touch as many people as possible. So thanks for listening, Brett. Glad you're out here in Tucson.
Yeah, watch it on YouTube. We're in the same room today.
It's amazing.
Instead of two separate screens, we're together doing it. So take us on, Dave.
All right, everybody, get out there, live the full force life, and we'll talk to you real soon.